Good evening, Sister Darlene. Do me a favor as you're coming in, please share on Facebook. Make sure you like the page. Good evening, Kenya. How are you doing this evening? Good evening. What's up, Tony? How are you? Good evening, everyone. Do me a favor, share as you're coming in. Good evening. How you doing, Sister Claudette? God bless you all the way from Dallas. Elder Johnson, good evening. Good evening, one and all. Good evening, one and all. Good evening, Sister Kathy. God bless you. Hope you're feeling better. Good evening, each and every one of you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. We're excited to be coming back to you on this evening as we continue our Fruitful Financial Seminar, preparing the people of God to prosper in the pandemic. Amen. Amen. Good evening. Preparing the people of God. Good evening, Minister Dandridge, to prosper in the pandemic. Amen. Amen. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Do me a favor, share, like the page, do what you need to do. Thank God for all of you on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. God bless you all. God bless you all. Come on in. We continue our Fruitful Financial Seminar. Ladies, Funky, God bless you. Bless you, one and all. Amen. Come on in as we continue to learn and grow as the Bible teaches us. How you doing, Sister Sherman? That we prosper as our soul prospers. Hey, cuz, how you doing? We had a great session on last night learning about home ownership. Very important lesson as we try to prepare the people of God to own your own rather than rent from somebody. The money that we're spending on somebody else's property could be your own. And it don't take that much. It does not take that much. But I pray you got a lot of information on last night and you started your process to move forward in home ownership. So you started your process. I thank God for the resources that He's given us to be able to connect with people, to be able to send people to the right people, that they are going to be blessed, that they obtain their goals and their dreams. So we thank God for that. We thank God for everyone that's about to walk into their destiny in faith and trusting God. Great information on last night. Great information. As we continue to be a blessing to the people of God, as we continue to uplift the kingdom principles, as we continue to want to see everybody blessed and prosper. Amen. We look at Moses and Joshua. When Joshua led the people, and he went to the people as they went into the promised land. He told the people, you promised Moses that you would help us fight and go and get our land. He says, you can't enjoy your land until they get their land. We ought not be happy that we got ours and our brothers and sisters are not moving forward. So we want to be happy that everybody is a homeowner. We want to be happy that everybody is prospering. We want to be happy that everybody, God is blessing. And He's taking it to another level. So we thank God for all that was poured out on last night. And we thank God for all those who are moving forward in home ownership. We understand that some people are not, so we might not want a home, but you can buy a condo or a townhouse, amen, and get into a place where you don't have to take care of the property, get your condo and own your own condo. It's so beneficial. One of the greatest investments you can make in yourself is home ownership. Think about this. When you retire after 30 years and you're done working and you're getting your Social Security or your pension, and you still have to pay money out of that Social Security or pension because guess what? I still want to live in a nice area. So my rent is going to be so much, $1,200, $1,300. But if I've invested in my own home ownership, guess what? I have to pay no more rent. I'm living where I want to live. I have the property I want, and now I'm retired. I'm on Social Security. I'm getting my pension, and I don't have rent to pay. Amen. I don't have rent to pay because I've invested in home ownership. It is a plus. It is something you cannot go wrong in, home ownership. And amen. As we looked at the scripture on last night, 3 John chapter 1, verse 2, beloved, says, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. I want you to prosper in life, not just be in health, but to prosper, to be blessed, amen, to have the good things of life, to enjoy all the things in earth that God has given us. So home ownership is a great thing. And on tonight, we're going to share with some people on tonight, and maybe in your spirit, it may drop in your spirit. Think about how many things, how many products you go in your cabinet right now, go in your kitchen, go in your bathroom, and look at the products in there. Somebody invented those. Somebody became an entrepreneur. Somebody, amen, have made money off of our needs. They thought about it and be into business. I'm tired of spending money just in home ownership. I'm tired of paying for somebody else's property. Somebody might be saying, I'm tired of getting people rich off of my needs. Let me create something. Let me become an owner. Let me start my own business. What does it take? Does it take a lot of money? What does it take to get my own business started? So tonight we're going to look at entrepreneurship, how to start your own business. So please pay close attention. If this isn't you, you may know someone who wants to start their own business. Give them the information. As a matter of fact, if you're on now and you know someone and they're not on, text them and say, get on this live. You're going to learn a lot. So tonight we're thankful for another young lady coming to us, and she'll introduce herself. She'll give you her credentials. Miss Straw coming to us tonight to help us with LLCs. We introduce you. Thank you, Miss Straw, for coming in on tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
How
for
are you
being on
tonight?
with us. We're great. We're great, and we thank you again for coming on with us. And would you give us a little
It's
bit
my pleasure.
about your background and what do you do? Could you give us a little bit about your background and things you do?
So, my name is Shanita Straw, and I am the founder. My name is Shanita Straw, and I'm the founding attorney of Golden Law, a law firm. We're actually located in Oak Park, and my practice, it specializes in civil, all things civil, where we do real estate, estate planning, probate, and of course, business law, corporate organization, and structure. So, part of what we do is we help clients start their business. If you have a business idea, part of what we do is we help you to decide what entity structure is best for your business. And then once we make that decision and assessment, we help you to file your organizational documents with the Secretary of State, Internal Revenue Service, and then all the other various entities, depending on what it is that you need to do.
Okay. How long
So
have you been in, how long
I
have you
have
been in
been
business?
I have been in business for 11 years this year.
Okay.
And I have been, but prior to becoming an attorney, I was a paralegal, so my total legal background experience is 20 plus years.
Okay, that is awesome. That is awesome. 20 plus years in the law field. That is great. Now, when we're looking at LLC, you said it would be best to benefit based on what kind of business you want to start.
Yeah. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at entrepreneurship is you have to decide, first of all, the product that you're selling or the service that you're providing, you have to make the determination as to whether it is something that you want to expand to be a full-fledged business, or if it's something more so that you it is, a hobby. Then I probably wouldn't recommend that you organize or become a corporation and do it full time. You probably want to do something, a little bit small scale, like a sole proprietorship. because it's not something that you'll be doing, 24 hours a day, or something that you're willing to quit your full-time day job to pursue, or something that you're willing to do, 24/7 in addition to your full-time day job. So if you are interested, or if you think your business is more passion related and not just a hobby, then it would make sense to organize or to incorporate and move forward. And then based on what your business type, the different entity structures that are out there, is what we help you to kind of determine what would be best.
Okay, so how would you set up? Say I'm working a job and I'm starting out. Let's say I'm starting selling sunglasses, or I'm starting selling
Okay.
hair product. So I'm not
Mhm.
doing it full time. Is it? How do I go about making sure, even though I'm not doing it full time, but it's becoming a business? And what are the
Okay.
benefits? What are the benefits and the positives and the negatives of starting it as a business, and the negatives of not going ahead and making it a business?
Okay. So the first positive, something that can possibly grow so that it can remove you from your full-time day job if that's the goal. And so one of the things that another positive, I guess, with respect to doing that also is if you organize it as a full-fledged, limited liability company or corporation, whichever one that you want to do, or whichever one is best, you will shield your self from personal liability, which is important because in the example that you use with respect to hair care products, if somebody had a bad reaction, to the hair care products that you sold and they tried to sue you, you want to make sure that your personal assets are not attacked, with respect to that lawsuit. So if you incorporate, your limited liability is based solely on and restricted only to the assets of the company that you have and not your personal assets. So that is a benefit. And so, of course, a negative of not incorporating is the exact opposite. You can have personal liability if someone was to sue you. And then, you won't have certain tax deductions and tax write-off with respect to your business if you don't organize. So if you incorporate, you can reap some sort of tax benefits as well.
So, in other words, say, and I know there are a lot of people that start like this. Say we ordering things off Amazon and you're selling them. So if somebody was to get damaged in any way from any product that you're selling, not being an LLC or either a proprietor, the least thing, they can actually come after you.
Yeah, you could be sued. You can be sued. It just is when you think about anybody can file a lawsuit against you for any reason. And so if they're successful and if they're able to get an award for damages, a judgment, then they can collect on it. And so if you do not have a corporation, then your personal assets are, at stake. If you have a corporation, they wouldn't sue you in your individual name. They would sue your corporation. And so the only assets that they could attack are the assets that are owned by the corporation.
Now, with the assets of the corporation, does that mean I would have to pay insurance in the corporation to protect from lawsuits?
That means that you should. So part of the business foundation and organization is that you carry insurance. And so when I meet with clients, one of the things that I tell them is insurance is a must, because if you're starting to accumulate business assets, you want to be able to protect yourself. And so part of protecting yourself is making sure that you have insurance to cover you.
Okay. What's the least amount, or what would you recommend? Somebody starting out, an amount, say you might have to pay an insurance. Is it a great amount? Is it something doable, especially if you're just starting out in business?
It's all doable, and it depends on the product and the goods that you're selling. So what I tell my clients is that the one thing you have to do is you have to talk to your insurance agent to let them know the type of business, what it is that you're engaged in, so that they can help you come up with your limits, your liability policy insurance amounts. So for example, for me, for my practice, part of you have to remember is if you're selling food, um,
You're freezing. I think it's your internet, but you're freezing.
To have $1 million worth of coverage, or sometimes you do limits of liability where you can have an aggregate 500,000 to $1 million, and so that may cost you where around $40 to $50 a month. It's not like it's astronomically high. So it is definitely affordable for individuals that's just starting out.
Okay, I hope you guys got that, because I know she was freezing a little bit. You started freezing a little bit, but it's not astronomically high. And your insurance
no, you can get yeah, and you can get a good business insurance policy for about $45 to $50 a month.
Now,
and now you said something. Go ahead.
Okay, you said something about the LLC and then a sole proprietor. Well, what's the difference with the two? So is the sole proprietor somebody that's starting out real small?
So a sole proprietorship is basically where you start out a business, and let's just say you come up with, Charming Charlie's, if you wanted to use that as your business name. And when you do a sole proprietorship, you don't incorporate, but what you do is you get an assumed business name. And so that's done at the county level. And so when you fill out the assumed business name application, if you live in Cook County, you'll file it with the Cook County Clerk's office. And then you have to publish in the paper for 3 consecutive weeks. And then once you send them proof of publication, they'll send you a certificate for your assumed business name. Then you'll be able to get your tax ID number so that you can, that'll be the social security number, so to speak, for the business, for your assumed business name. And then you'll be able to take those 2 documents to the bank so that you can open up a bank account in that name. But because it is a sole proprietorship, you as an individual have personal liability. So you won't have any protection. Your liability wouldn't be shielded. So if anyone was to sue you, they would sue you in your individual name, in your individual capacity. Now, if you incorporated or formed a company, it froze a little bit again. So if you incorporate or if you form a limited liability company, the fact that you incorporated, that takes it out of the personal realm. And so you now have what we call your liability limited until it is limited to the amount of money that you put into your business. So let's just say, for example, if you started your business and the dollar amount that you funded to incorporate, to buy, your products to get started and get sold, if that totaled $5,000, the limits of your liability that you could lose basically from your business if someone was to sue you, what is that $5,000? So you're shielded up to the amount that you put in. And so if anyone sued you, they would not be able to come after your personal assets. They will only be able to come after the business assets.
Okay. So in that case, is it better to do the LLC?
It's better to do the LLC. If you're going to have a full-fledged business and operate a business, it's always better to either file a limited liability company or a corporation, something that will shield your liability. Okay. So either one of them.
And when you're doing the LLC, how much is it to file to do an LLC?
So if you're including attorney's fees, different attorneys charge different for actually filing the articles of organization is $150. When you get your tax ID number, that's free. You don't have to pay for any of that. But the reason why you would hire a lawyer is because they're ancillary documents. Like if you're doing a limited liability company, operating agreements, your membership certificates, those types of things, you want to make sure that you have those, because if you ever were to go get a loan, and if you have more than one person as a part of the business, the option is what you use to basically. And so between you and all of the owners of the business, that's basically your contract or your governing document as to how the profits and losses are distributed, and how the business itself is run. And so you want to make sure that you have those, which is one reason why individuals hire lawyers, because you need to have a lawyer to draft those agreements for you properly.
Okay, that's great. Now, under the LLC, can you branch off and say, I got hair product, and now I want to do something else? Will all that fall under that LLC? Can you cover it, or?
So generally speaking, you can use a limited liability company to, for any lawful business purpose. We use a very broad, we use very broad terms when we define that. But what you have to keep in mind is if you have 3, 4, or 5 different businesses and they all are lucrative, if you operate them all under one limited liability company, you're basically exposing all of them to the liability of the other. So for example, if you have, if you sell real estate, buy, sell it, and flip it or rent it out, and you do that under your one umbrella of a limited liability company, then you sell food under the same umbrella, and then you might sell sunglasses under another umbrella. If somebody who got food poisoning and can trace it back to your food, if they sued you, they're attacking the assets from the house, they're attacking the assets from from the real estate business, they're attacking those assets, and they're attacking the assets from the sunglasses, from the glass business that you're all operating under the same one. So if you have multiple business ideas or multiple business streams, it makes sense to shield them under separate limited liability companies so that you don't run the risk of losing everything that you have if one company was sued. And so with limited liability companies, there is such a thing as a series LLC where you can do that.
Okay. So there's a series LLC that allows you to place each business under a different thing without the assets of something will happen to that other entity being attacked.
That is correct. So let's just say, for example, if you wanted to incorporate under St. Mark Enterprises, right? And St. Mark Enterprises could be what we would consider the main limited liability company. And then if you wanted to start do a real estate arm, you'll have, St. Mark, Enterprises hyphen real estate. And then if you wanted to do something where you're selling food, it'll be St. Mark, Enterprises hyphen whatever the food company is. And so all of these are their own separate entities. They have their own separate tax separately. So you can't attack the assets of one. You can't attack the assets of all of them if one company is sued. So they're all separate and distinct entities.
And all of them would need their own bank accounts?
That is correct, because they're all separate and distinct. And so as long as you don't, what we call pierce the corporate veil, or if you don't, commingle funds, you won't have to worry about,
okay,
using the assets or having the assets of the other one attacked.
Okay. So it's best if you're going to start an LLC. Is it more to do the series, or should you put implement it in the beginning? So in case you branch off, if you want to do something else, can you just go ahead and do the series, even if there's not another company yet, but you want to do something else? And is the series more money?
So the answer is yes. The series is a little bit more expensive. A series LLC costs $400. And then when you make every time you make a designation, that's starting a new series, is $50. So if for 100% certainty that you have all these business ideas inside of you and they're going to come out, you can start with the series LLC. And then you don't have to make all the designations at one time. You can just have one. And then as those business ideas come to fruition, then you can make the designation at a later time. If you're uncertain and you just have, one business idea and you say, well, I'm just going to start out with a regular LLC, you just do a series LLC.
Okay.
And then you would pay the additional filing fee at that time.
Now, in your experience doing the LLCs and getting things started, how difficult with the business, say the marketing? Have you ever dealt with marketing with the LLCs and all that? Is there do you need a budget to pay from those things for each thing you might want, like marketing? If I want to have a food business, um, is there a budget I have to have maintained for marketing for food, and then the food actual purchase of food and stuff like that? How do you have to set that up within that to allocate the money?
So what I tell people is, some people have the ability to start from with $0 and move forward, and then other people are not. Some people are planners. So if you are a planner, you want to make sure that you know clearly what the business, that you have. You want to figure out what your market is, and so you might want to invest in talking to, a business coach or a branding coach or something like that. And then they can tell you how much they would charge to help you market, because you have to know who your market is in order to, to get, things out there. Nowadays, because we have, social media, that's the main way that people, market their business, or one of the main ways that they market their business. And so you might want to, work with some people who have the expertise and the know-how, to do the ad clicks, to build your following, on social media, because that will help you to sell your product. So when you're thinking in terms of that, if you know that that's what you're going to do, you want to sit down with somebody to figure out how much that will cost, to figure out how often you would need to do the marketing. So you'll know, I need to sell X amount of, products in order to meet my monthly budget. And when you do your monthly budget, you have to include payroll and paying yourself, because a lot of people struggle with business, and a lot of people don't stay in business because as the person that's running it, you're low on a totem pole. But if you don't pay yourself, you're the person promoting the business, your business will not succeed. So you have to make sure that you factor into that budget that you're creating a salary for you.
Okay.
And for any employees, if you have to hire employees.
Okay, so as you're starting out and you're the only one, you don't have any employees as of yet, you should always incorporate yourself as a CEO and have a salary base for the CEO, no matter how big or small, and make sure you pay yourself and pay taxes, take your taxes out on yourself. Now, how do you set that up? Is that a private owner taxes or corporation taxes?
So if you're going to have employees, one of the things you definitely want to do is you have to set up your tax accounts, because you got to pay, employee taxes. You got to pay taxes on your income, and you pay it at both the corporate level and at, as the employee. And so what you would do is you have to budget for that. So let's just say, and you can't make $1 million. So you can start small and say, I'm going to pay myself $500 a month. And every month when you pay yourself $500, you have to calculate, your Social Security withholdings, your Medicare withholdings, your state and your federal withholdings. So if that comes out to be, $50, when you're funding payroll, or when you're keeping that money separate, you're actually paying $550. And so then you have to take out your taxes, so you might only net $450, and then $100 is staying in your bank account, so you can pay to Internal Revenue Service when that time comes. So, and you want to make sure that you do it consistently every month.
Okay. So every company has so many taxes. Let me ask you this: the danger of this, you're starting a company, you're marketing on social media, you're getting sales and all that, but you have not put a propriety LLC in place. You have not put an LLC in place of any kind, but you are property. But it's like a company. If the IRS comes after you, can they come after you personally and from a business aspect?
Did you say if you have not incorporated?
Yes, but you're selling that as a business.
Yeah. So if you haven't incorporated, they won't come after you as a business. They're gonna come after you personally.
Okay. They'll come after you personally, but they can't.
If you incorporate, they'll come after your business, and then Right. So the only way they're going to come after your corporation for not paying taxes or not paying employment taxes is if you incorporate. If you have a sole proprietorship, so sole proprietorships are reported on your income tax return as a Schedule C. So they wouldn't come after you for your corporation because there isn't a corporation or entity that exists. They only coming after you for your personal.
So if you're going to do the LLC and you do the series, it's best to you're going to have to pay taxes on your corporation, regardless of how big or small. Once you incorporate, you have to pay taxes on that business.
So no, so here's the good thing about limited liability companies. Limited liability companies, especially if it's one member, a single member limited liability company, is they're treated as disregarded entities. So any profit or loss that you have, you'll carry it over to your personal tax return, just like it was a sole proprietorship. That's the beauty behind a limited liability company. But another thing that you can do, and I encourage people to do this when there's more than one member, of the limited liability company, and if you're going to pay yourself a salary, is limited liability companies can now make what we call the S election, which is what small businesses do. When you hear people say that they have the S corp, that just means that they're a small business and they made the S election. And so what you do is you make that S election on the form 2553 with the Internal Revenue Service, and so your LLC is now treated like it's a small business. And so you will file an informational tax return. And once you file that informational tax return, whatever profit that you have from the limited liability company and whatever loss that you have, you carry it over to your personal tax return. So there is no tax that you're paying for federal taxes at the corporate level. You only pay it at the business, at the individual level. Now you have to remember with Illinois, if you have an Illinois limited liability company or a corporation, Illinois charges all corporations taxes. So you will pay taxes at the corporate level to the state of Illinois, but not to the federal government.
Okay. And just hearing this with like selling stuff, extra selling, and regardless of whatever, you are liable for what you sell, no matter where you. If I get a delivery from Amazon of cups, and people buy the cups and put water in it, and plastic gets in they drink what they get in it from the inside of the cup, and they swallow in plastic, and they get sick from the plastic from the inside of the sippy cup I drink. I sold them. They can actually come sue me.
Well, I'm not saying that because that's not necessarily true. Now you might be getting into something that's a liability question. Yeah. And so, because I mean, how many people buy cups and start drinking out of them without, rinsing them? Now, if it's defective, that's a different story. And so that might relate back to the person who produced the cup, not the end seller, which is you. So so I doubt that you would have liability with respect to that. But if you actually manufactured the cup and it, came loose or something like that, then you may have some liability.
Okay, so then most people say if I'm getting stuff off of Amazon, it's actually coming from another manufacturer. Mm-hmm. So that makes me less liable if I'm not incorporated.
It makes you less liable if you don't do what? What was the last part?
If I'm not incorporated, does that make me less liable?
So I'm not saying it's going to make you less liable. I'm just saying that the beauty and the reason to incorporate is so that you just want to shield yourself from personal liability. So for example, if the biggest asset that you have is a house and you worked hard to buy it, and if it's paid off, there's no mortgage on it, you don't want somebody to come sue you and then end up with a money judgment, attach a lien to your house, and then you forced to pay that. Because your house is an asset, and if they can force you to sell it to pay off their lien, it's just not worth taking the risk. So the reason to incorporate is so that you can limit that, especially if you're going to be in the marketplace. Now, if you're buying stuff, from Amazon to resale, I don't necessarily think that, folk will come suing you for that. But where you can get in trouble with that is, for a lot of people, when you're selling goods, T-shirts, cups, mugs and things like that, most people, in the county for not collecting sales tax and then paying it. and you can owe a huge debt to them. And then, of course, they're going to try to collect by any means necessary.
Because you're not charging sales tax, but you owe sales tax.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, because that's how the state makes money off of the sales tax. So if you're selling something, you have to charge the end person the tax, and then you have to pay that to the state, to the state of Illinois.
So basically, even if what we call as a hustle, it's best to go ahead and incorporate.
Yep.
Just
just to cover yourself, you want to go ahead and incorporate. And then how far you take the business, because some people, do incorporate so that they can have the they can shield themselves from personal liability, but they really only intended to do a hobby, and they're doing it just so that they could take, a loss on their tax return or something,
Mm-hmm.
But you still want to make sure you protect yourself from personal liability.
So it's very important to just what your personal recommendation, even if it's a hustle, would be what?
So if it's a hustle, and it's truly a hustle, I'm going to tell you to do more of a sole proprietorship, but if it's something, let me put it this way. If you're making more than, I'll say, $5,000 a year, then you should probably incorporate in some form. If you're making less than that dollar amount, then that's just a hobby, and it's not worth it, because you're not going to even do it enough to put yourself at risk. And you could still become a sole proprietor and get assumed business name, and you can still get liability insurance, to protect yourself in the event somebody tried to sue you, even if you were a sole proprietor and just had an assumed business name. And so your insurance will act to cover you in that scenario.
So even if you're not making, say, if you're not making $5,000 a year, but you're doing stuff and selling stuff on a consistent basis, it might not be that much product, but you're doing something every month and you have a clientele now. It is best to go ahead, if you do nothing else, but to cover yourself and do a sole proprietor with liability insurance.
Exactly.
Especially when you're getting product, and then be careful with the sales tax that you might owe even during that, because you will owe sales tax to the state.
Right. And you're supposed, so if you're depending on the type of business you have, you're required to pay sales tax, and you're required to register with the Illinois Department of Revenue so that they can make that determination, and so that you can pay it into your account.
That is awesome stuff to know. I really appreciate this. This is really some good information.
It's my pleasure.
Especially because I know a lot of people, a lot of us are venturing into. You see people selling T-shirts all online now, and a lot of different things. And a lot of times we think, okay, I just get some T-shirts and just sell them, not even knowing sometimes we might be liable for some things.
And one of the things you have to remember about these T-shirts, like you can see my little logo here. A lot of this stuff that you have, that you'll get those print screens from Etsy, and all those different places, though if you are a crafter, or a crafty person, and you purchase those, they have little disclaimers telling you that you're not supposed to resell the screens, and if you're going to do it for commercial purposes, you have to get a different type of license. And so sometimes you can get in trouble even with doing that, because you're purchasing that print screen that you have from from someone who made that art. And so you have to be careful with doing that, because that artist can come back and sue you, for, stealing, their art without, permission, and then for reselling it. So you want to be careful with that. You want to be careful with, a lot of people will take, like Nike, the Nike symbol, and all of those different things, and they put them on different shirts, they bling them out. That Nike logo is a trademark, and so you can't use that without their permission. If somebody was to use, Golden Law, it's trademark. So if I saw somebody else, with a design like this in my shirt, and they're advertising and selling it, I'm going to send a cease and desist letter, because that is my mark, and it's up to me to protect it. So a lot of people, who just take all of the name brand stuff, I'm thinking Pink recreate these, t-shirts and things of theirs, they can actually stop you. And big design companies, Coach and all, they actively litigate, and they protect their marks, and they will sue you. And
Oh wow.
they gather information. They come into the little group chats, that, or the group pages that you have, and they have people who work for them that are infiltrating these places, and they're just collecting their evidence, and then they will bring a lawsuit.
Oh wow. So there are people that so there are people you think or you experience that use things or trademarks that we never even think about.
Yeah.
They're always going to pick it up and going to put on the flyer, put on this, put on that, and look good, but it's infringement.
Yep.
And we can actually get in trouble for that.
That is true. It is. And they will send you a cease and desist letter. And if you don't, they will bring a lawsuit.
Now, question. There's so many, I'm talking from a spiritual aspect, because there's a lot of gospel artists, a lot of pastors, a lot of people, even just making t-shirts, like you said, with faith works or different stuff on it. If that comes from the Bible, how can one determine who's the rightful person because you have to get it copyrighted? Say like you start something. But you didn't copyright it. And then I take it and I copyright it. Who's the rightful owner?
So if first of all, if it's able to be, copywritten, and you put it out and you go to the patent and trademark office to get the copyright before somebody else does, then my position would be, according to them, you're the rightful owner. Now, that just means that you went to get it first. That doesn't mean that the person who you took it from or who actually had it first, they might intend to go and they probably come after you. And so then what will happen is the patent and trademark office will say, well, no, you can't get that because somebody else has already applied for it and have that mark. And then they would say to you, well, that person stole it from me. And so now the patent and trademark office is going to look at, well, who had it first? And so if they can produce that they put it out in the domain and into commerce before you did, you might have a challenge where that mark is where they challenge you for it and it's no longer yours. But it's a lot of stuff involved in that. So that's just one scenario.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So if I put something out first, even though I didn't copyright it, and somebody else begins to use it, I can go and have them stop using it. I'm asking because I remember once with our football program, we were the Hillside Hurricanes. We put a symbol out of our logo football team, and we had writing. And parents, we weren't selling product. We were selling certain T-shirts. But parents started making cups and other things with our logo and selling it at games. But it wasn't for our team. It was for them. Mm-hmm. It's like, say, like my shirt, St. Mark. Say, I got St. Mark. We put this on here. And somebody else gets it and say, well, I'm going to start selling the T-shirts. But it's the church, St. Mark. But their profit. How's that work?
So if you don't have a trademark on it, it's not yours yet. I mean, it's your logo, but if you apply for the trademark and that person has applied too, but they did it first, you would then be trademarking. You would then be challenging that trademark, saying that it was mine first and they took it from me. And so now I want the mark. And so then that's where I'm saying the waters get a little bit more murkier. But the goal is you want to make sure that you can establish that you put it out into commerce before they did, and then that they stole it from you. So, for example, in the example that you gave, like whenever that game was played where you first debuted it, I'm sure you can clearly identify the date when that happened, and then you can clearly identify the date when these other parents came up with the cups, and other things that they made, still in the logo. And those are the things that you use as evidence to support that it was. And then, of course, whoever developed the mark for you, they can tell you, well, I created it on X, Y, and Z date. It can provide proof for it. And so those are all the things that you would use when you're dealing with the patent and trademark office and trying to fight that person for the ownership mark. So I guess to answer your question, there has to be something between the two of you and with the Patent and Trademark Office trying to get it trademarked.
Now, how do I go about trademarking something?
So now trademarking basically all you do in simplest terms is you're filing an application with the Patent and Trademark Office. And so what you have to do is you have to give them, like, you have to have specimens. And so where a lot of people get confused, some people say, well, I'm not going to put my trademark out there because I don't want nobody to steal it. I don't want anybody to use it. Well, one of the first questions that the Patent and Trademark Office asks is are you using it, or is there intent to use? And so it's easier to get the mark if you're actually using it, because they ask you they want to see specimens. They want to see you're actively, engaging that brand and putting it out there in commerce. And so the mark that you're trying to get protected, it also depends on what class you want to have that mark in. And so let's just say if it's t-shirts, if you want, you're going to promote your mark on t-shirts, that's one class and one specimen that you would have to give to the Patent and Trademark Office in order to get it approved. If you want to have it, on, cups, or actually on ink pens, things like this is a different class. And so you would have to give them a specimen with your logo on that, on the ink pen, showing that you're actively using it. If you want to have it on your website, and display it, on the internet and stationery, all of those are different classes. Even business cards, this is a different class, and so you have to file in each one of those classes so that your mark is protected. And so what they do is they take your logo, they look at if it have, color to it. And you have to basically, you basically define it for them, basically what this mark is. And so you go through a lot of different office actions because they're challenging you, because they want to make sure that this mark is something that's going to be out there protected, and they don't just like to give, marks away for nothing. And so in simplest terms, the way you get a trademark is you just file an application, and you have to have, go through the different office actions until it's approved.
Is that expensive?
It can be, and that's because, you have to, you don't need to have an attorney. I'm not going to tell you have to have an attorney, but it's best to have an attorney because you want to make sure that you're doing the process the proper way. And the classes, how I just told you, each one of these are different classes, business cards, ink pens, t-shirts, the website. Each class, depending on what your mark is, the filing fee is either $225 up to $350 per class.
For each class? Wow.
For each class. Yes, for each class. And so it can be expensive. And some people, they have a lot of different marks that they want to protect. And so I tell people, if you don't have the money to do the trademark now, that doesn't mean that you don't use the mark. Use the mark, get it out there, use it as much as possible, because that just helps you in the process when you're going to apply for your trademark. You want to make sure that your trademark is something that is identifiable, that is distinct from anything else that's out there. And so that's where the attorney come in, because we have to do trademark searches to look to see what other things are out there that might be like yours.
Okay, that's some great information. We're winding down the time, so what I want to do now is there anybody out there that would like to ask specific questions? We're going to get some questions before we log off. Anyone needs some questions? If you have any questions, put your questions on the screen right now. Thank you for that. Some great information. We actually had that happen with our football program. We had somebody create a thing, and then the parents started selling it, but it was not for the program, but for them personally.
For themselves, yeah. That's kind of dirty.
Any questions, you guys? Nobody has any questions?
I think I saw some flashing as they were commenting, but I think
I asked some of the ones I was asking myself.
Okay, good.
Anybody any questions? Does your company recommend distribution centers?
But distribution, do you have a lot of product to sell? That kind of depends on how much product. basically a full-fledged site, where you're going to have employees. You got to think about insurance. You got to think about security. You got to think about workers' comp insurance in case somebody, gets hurt while working. So that, I mean, if your business is that big, then you have to do it.
Right. Only when you have a great amount to distribute, but not so much like in the beginning, because you don't have that much to distribute.
You have to grow to that point. So if you grow to that point, then yes, but make sure you take everything into consideration, because that's a location, that you're responsible for, and you want to make sure that it's completely covered in all areas.
So when you're dealing with distribution, it's basically when you've grown to the point that you need distribution.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you can no longer drop it off yourself, or they can come meet you. You got to send it all over.
Well, and not only that, you have to have somebody there to package. You have to make sure you hire whoever you're going to use, UPS, FedEx, to come pick up. You have to have somebody there to control the inventory, to make sure your employees not stealing from you. You got to make sure you have insurance in place, to cover those it's a lot that goes into that. So that's why if you grow to that point, then that means you are doing wonderful.
Okay, here's the next question. Is an LLC needed for a nonprofit?
So nonprofits are only corporations. You cannot have a nonprofit LLC. There's no such thing as that. So it's only corporations, and they're called just not-for-profit corporations.
Right, not-for-profit corporations, like a church, right?
Yep.
Here's your next question. If you want to start your own company, like perfume or something, how do you get connected to the chemist to help you create the distinct fragrance?
Yeah, so that's out of my ballpark. I have no idea.
This is about how to start the business, not to connect to the perfume. You get some water and get some and mix it with something that smells good.
And you extract
Shake it up and rub it on and see how it smells. And somebody like it, you sell it to them. Okay, next question. What about for example, with the perfumes?
Mm-hmm.
Is there copyright infringement on perfumes?
It can be.
It can.
So I don't think it's not copyright, because you don't copyright perfume. Those are patent. And so you have to have a patent attorney in order to do that kind of stuff. And depending on the different fragrances and stuff, I don't do patent, work, because, that's a different type of bar. And so I'm not even qualified, to even answer that. But perfumes and things like that, those are not copyright. That's more patent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another question. Can I hire my children legally for my LLC?
See, I like this question because, that's one of them things that float around Facebook a lot, and with those advertisements and stuff. You can hire your children to work for you legally, but the key to that is legally. So they have to actually be doing some work. You have to pay them, just like you would pay any other employee. So you can't just pretend like, Billy is working for your company and you write off his allowance on your business tax return. That don't work. He have to come in, after school, punch in like everybody else, have to do, the work that you tell him to do. And then you pay him, he'll get a check, he'll get a W-2 at the end of the year. And then that's how you can legally, hire your children to work for your company. So it can't be a sham. It has to be a real job.
Okay. Here's the next question. If you file for an LLC and you decide not to file for the series, but plan to have multiple businesses, does it cost full price if you do them separately?
If you set up each individual limited liability company, it'll be $150 for each individual liability company. However, if you do decide that you want to have multiple business, you can always convert your limited liability company into a series, and then you'll just pay the additional filing fee at that time. And that would be the better option to take, because remember, it is, so if, let's just say, think of it this way, it costs $150 to file one limited liability I think it costs $400 to file a series LLC. So basically, if you know you're going to have 4 or more businesses, it makes sense to do a series LLC or to convert to a series LLC because each designation is only $50. So for each business that you decide to open after 4, you're only paying $50. So you save money in the long run.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Next question. How long is the process to get an LLC?
I mean, to get it, well, so this is what I tell my clients. It's probably like, 2 weeks. So I usually allow the state can take anywhere from they'll tell you 2 to 6 weeks, but usually 2 to 4 weeks, especially we file electronically these days, and electronically is a little bit quicker than, the old snail mail. And so I've been getting, my filings back within 2 weeks. And so during that 2-week time, that's when I'm preparing the operating agreement and the other ancillary documents. So by the time the filing come back, it's just a matter of getting the tax ID number, plugging in dates, and then, you can be up and running. So I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Gotcha. Next question. Is it an age limit requirement when you hire your kids if you have an LLC?
Well, you have you have to realize you have to follow the state laws, and I think that the state allows your children to work with a permit at age 15?
15, you have to have a permit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say 15. That's why I'm saying you have to be careful with that stuff. You can't hire your if your 6-year-old son is not legally able to work, you can't really do that. Now, we may be able to figure out something crafty when it comes, because children can act, children can model, they can do voiceover. So maybe your children can be your marketer for your business, and we can figure out a way, to have them doing that. But then their money have to go into a trust.
Okay. This has to be done legally.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Now, if you don't do it that way, you can ask people, what kind of trouble can you get in using your child and they're underage and you don't put it in a trust? Could they shut down your corporation?
Well, I'm not gonna say they'll shut down your corporation, but you probably can, be fined for it. I don't know what the state. I've never experienced that from, the state aspect or from Internal Revenue Service. So I don't really know, but you can get in trouble for it. But before you do it, it don't hurt to call an attorney to try to figure out a way around it. But, one way, because you have to remember when it comes to child actors and things of that nature, the goal is to make sure that their funds are protected and used for them when they become of age. Right. So, and so that's where the trust part come in. And so nowadays you used to have to set up one, but you can go into a bank now and set those up for kids.
Yeah, that's what a lot of child stars grew up and had problems when they got older. Their parents had spent all their money.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, here's the next question. Are there annual fees associated with setting up a business under the LLC?
Of course, there's always annual fees. So the annual renewal fee right now is $75.
Every year or every 2 years?
Every year. It's every year for a limited liability company. And it's the same amount for a corporation right now as well.
Okay. Next question. What are your social media handles to be contacted for potential clients?
goldenlawpc.com is my website. Golden Law, I think it's Golden Law PC for Facebook as well.
Golden Law PC?
.com is my website.
Okay, and Golden Law PC is on Facebook.
That's correct. Yeah.
Are you on Instagram or Twitter?
I'm on Twitter as Golden Law. I don't think I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn as Golden Law as well. There you go. Yep. goldenlawpc.com.
Okay. Thank you so much. Man, thank you so much. I want to hold up your whole Friday. It's been an hour. I hope you guys got enough information. Man, I got a lot. Thank you so much for LLC. Because there's so many things now, and I know you've seen so many people starting t-shirt businesses and all kind of things. But we want to make sure we're in alignment with the law.
Yeah.
So that we're covered, and also gives us the room potential to grow legally.
Yep. So just so you guys know, if you go to my website, my email is there. You can email me, and if you have any questions, feel free to call, and I'll help you however I can.
We thank you, Shanita. Thank you so much for taking his time out to help us as we try to grow and get better and become business owners. Some of us are doing it already, but we need to make it legal and to expand so that we can expand our thinking.
Yeah.
Even as you said, it's great information. I love all the information. I think you helped a lot of people, even those who weren't on can get the information so people that they know that are already kind of doing this stuff. Do you know a lot of people that's doing this but not incorporated?
A lot of people
that are doing it but not incorporated.
Right, and some of them, don't want to do it. They're just doing it because they like to do it, or they might do it just because they do it for themselves. But I also know that, and especially since the pandemic has hit, a lot of people have been tapping into, their gifts, and they've been incorporating and just moving full-fledged. And I'm okay with it.
About how many, say, in the span of 3 months or during the pandemic, have you incorporated a lot of people?
Oh my Jesus. Yeah. I mean, I think I have right now pending with the Secretary of State probably at least 4. A lot of people are, protecting, are putting in for their trademarks. A lot of people are doing a lot of things right now.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Friday night. I hope you learned a lot, took a lot of notes. And listen, tomorrow, we're going to have to cancel tomorrow. The stock person called me today. They actually have been diagnosed with COVID, unfortunately. So we're praying for him. And he couldn't get anybody else to come at the short notice. So what I'm going to try to do is get somebody for Thursday. This coming Thursday, we'll try to have that person on to talk about investing in stocks this coming Thursday. So tomorrow will be canceled, and we look forward to doing it on Thursday as he gets his replacement in to do these things. And bless you guys. Have a great night. Get all the information, soak it in. Check out Shanita's website. Amen. And be blessed this evening. God bless you guys. I'll see you on Sunday. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And most of all, be safe. God bless you. Love you with the love of Jesus. Peace.